Welcome back to the Week 11 edition of my weekly NFL Pick'em. This is going to sound really cheesy, but this past week I looked around the NFL and wondered how everything got so awesome. Seriously, maybe it's because I just finished my first mock draft of the year, wink wink, but it seems like there's only a few teams with negative vibes around them right now, and yet the teams that are thriving in 2020 are fresh and new and exciting. Every year there's a top team that everyone assumes is going to win the Super Bowl, right? But this year we've got a good balance of the new kids on the block and OG teams that all have a chance to win. Typically in these weekly Pick'ems, I've been saving the Thursday night football matchups for the end of these videos, but this week I want to lead off with it because it's a really good one, and first and foremost I want to talk about the best part of week 10, the Hail Murray. Now, the Cardinals, Bills, and Dolphins, they were all part of that group of the new kids on the block that I was referring to, and they've all met in the desert for some really epic games in the past couple weeks, featuring young dynamic quarterbacks, and these are also some AFC, NFC matchups that we hardly ever get to see, so for everybody to thrive in the games like they did, it was truly an alignment of NFL stars. After losing a close one to the Dolphins, the Cardinals were about to drop the second straight game at home by a single possession. Josh Allen stepped up and put his name back in the MVP race, with one of the best throws you'll ever see to Stephon Diggs, burning a living legend like Patrick Peterson. But with just enough time on the clock, Kyler Murray got the Cardinals in range and showed us all why you would keep a guy like DeAndre to pull it off. It would be the third year in a row that a dynamic second-year quarterback won the award. But anyways, let's get on to Thursday Night Football. We have got the Cardinals heading to Seattle for the Seahawks. The NFL knew this series was going to be a good one because you don't often get two matchups in prime time. And while Josh Allen and Kyler Murray are getting in the MVP discussion, Russell Wilson is getting pretty close to just checking out. I'm not really sure what's happened to him other than trying to overcome this historically bad defense. Last week, DK Metcalf was completely erased from the game from Jalen Ramsey. It was the previous matchup of these two teams that started the demise of the Seahawks. Vance Joseph kind of exposed the Seahawks offense, and I don't think I ever realized how important Chris Carson was to this equation. I think that because they are at home, and this is such a must-win game for the Seahawks to turn things around, and they're going to be in their highlighter green uniforms, I think that the Seahawks will win 28-27. Alright, let's move on to the Sunday matchups. But before we do, please make sure that you hit that like button. And when you're done watching this, go check out my latest mock draft. Let me know what you think. I'll have another mock draft right after Thanksgiving that incorporates your feedback. First up on Sunday, we've got Bengals versus Washington. 'Tis the season for some draft stock matchups, I guess, right? It's been great to see how well Alex Smith is playing and giving this football team a chance to win. I expect that he'll continue to sharpen up as he shakes off the rust. And this week he's got the Bengals coming to town. But the matchup that I'm looking forward to seeing the most as the draft nerd that I am is the number 1 overall pick versus the number 2 overall pick from last year's draft. We desperately need an epic poster shot of Joe Burrow actually being chased by Chase Young for this game to actually be worth turning on. I think the result of that poster shot will determine the winner of this game. If Burrow's able to evade the Washington pass rush, then I think the Bengals can win this one, but Chase Young was the best overall player in that draft class, and you know he's going to be hungry to dominate the guy that was taken before him, given their respective positions. This Bengals offensive line doesn't have the manpower to hold down this Washington defensive line. I'm going to say Washington wins 26-23. Falcons versus Saints. So Drew Brees finally confirmed what we'd all suspected for a while now, and that's that he was playing at less than 100%. Although that laundry list of injuries on top of the fractured ribs kind of felt like piling on. But I don't know about you guys. To me, Jameis Winston makes the Saints a lot scarier in 2020 than Drew Brees. I think that Sean Payton is the right guy to get Winston to play responsibly. You saw on mop-up duty that he was on his best behavior because his life is literally at a crossroads. He's on a 1-year deal. The Saints are all in on this season, and whether or not he gets a starting caliber contract next year will be determined by his play in the next few weeks. Don't forget that Jameis Winston's got the physical talent of a Patrick Mahomes, and off the field he is known as a football savant. The problem is he has the self-control of a small child. Brees technically could come back from this injury, but if Winston isn't turning it over at a 30 for 30 rate again, then Brees might not actually get the starting gig back. The Falcons defense has been playing better since Raheem Morris took over, but this is going to be a tough task for them to adjust to a potentially much more explosive downfield passing attack, especially without any film to sort of gauge what they should expect here. Winston's familiarity within the division makes this matchup that much juicier. I'm looking forward to a shootout here, but still give me one pick six from Winston just for the lulz. Saints win 35-31. Steelers versus Jaguars. The Steelers didn't get a real bye week this season, but they were given a pretty cake 3-week stretch here with the Cowboys, Bengals, and now the Jaguars are up. This might actually be the toughest matchup of the three though, because the Jaguars have shown in the past couple weeks they're not laying down. I warned that things were not going to be easy for the Packers last week, and they sure as hell gave them a fight. I can't say the same though for this week, as the Steelers have a much better defense and they're so deep at wide receiver. The Jags just don't have the depth to negate these two strengths, whereas those were two of the bigger weaknesses for the Packers. Steelers win this one 29-17. Patriots versus Texans. The Patriots don't seem to want to go away just yet, and I'm here for it, other than making it increasingly hard to predict their games. Last week made sense, and I should have known better than to pick against them at home in prime time, and I feel like I let the struggle against the Jets influence me. So using that logic, they should win this game against the Texans, who struggled just to put up 7 points in Cleveland last week. Deshaun Watson has had some success against the Patriots defense in his rookie year when he played in Foxborough, but that film is the reason that I'm picking against the Texans. Belichick has now seen Deshaun Watson, played versus Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has a weaker receiving core now, and the Patriots' backs are against the wall. Patriots win 21-20. Eagles versus Browns. Eagles went 0 for 9 on third down against the Giants last week, and I think it's safe to say that this Eagles team is just broken. But in the NFC East, it's still anybody's division, and it's mind-blowing, but a 5-win team could potentially host a home playoff game. I'm thinking that somebody gets to 7 wins, but we'll see. Cleveland has provided some of the worst weather of the season already, and there's light rain in the forecast, so this is probably going to be a sloppy one. The Browns have gone 1-1 in those crappy weather games and haven't looked like the home team. Nick Chubb was only part of the win, though, and he looked really good in his first action back from that injury. I think the Browns run their way to a win here. Browns win 20-13. Lions versus Panthers. The starting quarterbacks are both banged up for this one. Matthew Stafford has torn ligaments in his hand, yikes, and Teddy Bridgewater injured the other knee, not the one he blew out with the Vikings. It looked like it might be a little bit more serious than it was, but the reports are that it's not as serious as initially thought, and he is supposed to practice this week. If one of these teams can win with a less than 100% version of their quarterback, I surprisingly think that it is the Panthers. Matt Rule might be the best coaching hire from the college ranks since Pete Carroll, maybe? I don't even know who the other candidates are. That's how rare the college to NFL transition works out. But Matt Rule's reputation as a program builder precedes him. Speaking of coaching hires that hardly ever work, the Belichick coaching tree has struggled to produce any kind of long-term head coaches. I'm pretty sure that Matt Patricia is just a bearded version of Eric Mangini. Panthers win 30-20. Titans versus Ravens. This is a revenge game for the Ravens, and they needed to dig deep to avoid getting stunned by the Titans. The Titans ended the Ravens 2019 season, for those who forgot, when the Ravens were one of the most dominant regular season teams we've ever seen, and they really haven't recovered yet. I don't know how to help Ravens offensive coordinator Greg Roman, but things have got to change. Maybe he needs to take a different route to work, wear a different type of underwear, I don't know, but he's holding this Ravens offense back from Monday to Friday, and it's translating into the game plan. I highlighted that 4th and 1 play on Twitter where he tried to use Mark Ingram in the Wildcat, and I realized afterwards that it was really poorly executed on the snap by the center, but this was not a new issue as Matt Skura had injured his hand the week prior, and really I think it only further highlights how terrible of a call it was. People joke about Lamar Jackson being a running back, but you literally took him off the field for a lesser running back who's not used to catching snaps in the rain on 4th and 1. If this isn't the week that Greg Roman shakes things up and ignites some momentum in this Ravens offense, then Harbaugh's going to have to get some fresh blood in there. But the Titans, they are not doing so well themselves right now. I was worried about the sustainability of their winning when they had such close games early on in the season, but I didn't think it would translate to this. The special teams have been poor at times, the defense has been poor at times, but even the offense isn't that great right now. You can't play bad in all 3 phases and win games. That's a quote from Booger McFarland, or maybe it was John Madden. This week, Ravens get back on track 35-27. Jets versus Chargers. Look out, guys. Justin Herbert got a new haircut for the first time since his sophomore season at Oregon. That means the Jets are in trouble. I'm kidding, obviously, but he better come out and play with that fresh cut feeling, or Chargers fans are literally going to panic as if he got his powers from that late 90s sitcom hairstyle. Chargers win this one 28-17. Dolphins versus Broncos. Dolphins are one of the bandwagons that you should jump on before it's too late. Everything is set up so well for them moving forward. Remember I mentioned the lack of success for the Belichick coaching tree? Well, it's still early days, but Brian Flores looks like the exception to the rule. Now, with only a few fans being let in across the league, Denver is one of the places that actually has a home field advantage built into the stadium, and that's the altitude. It's like a built-in handicapper for the Broncos, even though they haven't really been able to take advantage of it in 2020. The Broncos are one of the few teams that are not in a great place right now, and Drew Lock is having a sophomore slump, to say the least. Call me old-fashioned or a Drew Lock fanboy if you really want to, but I remember the days where we didn't give up on a quarterback after 12 starts. This guy's got all the physical tools, and it's on the coaching staff to get him where he needs to be mentally, because that's where the disconnect is at. Pat Shurmur's been a good offensive coordinator in this league, but you got to know what makes your quarterback tick. Much like with Greg Roman, there's a reason that I'm on this side of things. I don't have the answers for you. Maybe you need to throw on some Young Jeezy before the game, or have some Young Jeezy themed audibles in there or something. All I know is that it's not all on Drew Lock, but he is taking the brunt of it as the starting quarterback, and I hate to say it, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. The Broncos' schedule to end the season is brutal. Hopefully Drew Lock can have some bounce back games and at least give you something positive to build on for the future, but the Dolphins are legit. I think they win this one 24-17. Cowboys versus Vikings. I think the reason I enjoyed week 10 so much is because I didn't have to worry about the Cowboys hurting me for once. Now Andy Dalton's back at practice and should assume the starting role once again. Luckily for him, this game is not in prime time, so he has a chance to not completely suck this week, especially because we all saw how Garrett Gilbert injected some energy into this team and this offense, so there is pressure on Andy Dalton to perform. They head to Minnesota to play the Vikings coming off of a short week, with Kirk Cousins getting the Monday Night Football monkey off of his back. I swear, this Cousins-Dalton matchup is like the Spider-Man pointing meme, but the supporting cast around Cousins is playing a lot better right now, aka Dalvin Cook. That was a very gritty win in Chicago last week. Dalvin Cook didn't go off, but he did what he had to do, and if the Vikings want to get into this playoff race, they can't let bad teams beat them at home. The Cowboys defense had been stepping up lately, not getting gashed by the run as much, so don't count them out completely, but I'm still going with Vikings winning 28-27. Packers versus Colts. After tempering the expectations of the Packers' domination over the Jaguars, there were a few Packers fans that were asking why I hated their team. Guys, it's not that I don't like the Packers, it's that I just don't really like what Aaron Rodgers has become. Maybe it's because he wasn't shown enough love from the Packers franchise, or maybe he wasn't shown enough love as a kid from his own fam. Sorry, that was a cheap shot, but Aaron Rodgers was a favorite player of mine for a long time, and I'd always argue that he was the most physically gifted quarterback of his time. But that time has passed now, and I'm struggling to pick the Packers against any defense that isn't a pushover, like the Colts. They're coming off a huge win on the road last Thursday against the Titans. Their second half domination speaks volumes to the level of the coaching in Indianapolis, but it's that defense that's going to be the reason that they win this game. Colts win 24-21. And then on Sunday Night Football, we've got Chiefs versus Raiders. I hope the Raiders fans really savored that win in Kansas City because the Chiefs are getting their revenge in this one. That was a turning point for the Chiefs, and the Raiders have awoken the beast. I don't want to discredit the Raiders because watching Mayock and Gruden turn this thing around has been really fun to watch. The offensive line has been one of the more underrated storylines in the NFL, and the main reason for their offensive success. I'm actually hoping for a really fun game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I'm having a really hard time seeing the Raiders sweeping the Chiefs. Chiefs win 38-30. And then on Monday Night Football, we've got Rams versus Buccaneers. Let's take a quick stroll down memory lane here. A lot has changed since Tom Brady first played the greatest show on turf in his first Super Bowl. The Rams, they've moved to LA. Tom Brady moved to Tampa Bay. And the NFL landscape looks more and more like little Timmy's Madden Ultimate Team every single day. The Rams look like they had the makings of an updated version of the greatest show on turf, but their version of Marshall Faulk washed up, and honestly, they're a more balanced team now because of it. The Bucs were able to find more balance last week, or at least Ronald Jones's 98-yard touchdown run skewed the stats that way, but Tom Brady missed some throws that you'd expect him to make. He's been a little bit easily rattled this season, even more than usual, despite having a pretty decent offensive line. So how is he going to fare with Aaron Donald breathing down his neck? I think the bipolar Bucs showed us their ceiling and their floor in the past 2 weeks, and it's a very wide gap of expectations. I want to go with Brady and the Bucs at home in prime time, but I don't feel great about it. If their goal is to be the first team to host and win the Super Bowl, then they can't be getting beat twice at home on national TV. Bucs win 26-21. All right, and now let's recap the pick'em group from last week. But first off, tell me why, when the clock hit 1 o'clock, an empty slate of games flashed before my eyes and I realized that I had not actually submitted my picks for the week. Even though the games had not technically kicked off yet, I was hoping that I could quickly submit them, but it was too late. I was able to put the games in for the rest of the day, but after having already a pretty terrible week with only 8 games altogether correctly, only 4 of them were able to register into the pick'em group. It's better than 0, but now I have 2 asterisk weeks on the season. But let's look at you guys' picks, which are the most important. For week 10, we had in the top spot overall with 12 games correct, Little Hansen, and then about 16 more people had 11 games correctly. So everyone else did pretty well last week. I think I must have tried to go out on the ledge a little too much. And then in the top spot overall, we have Mr. Quebec Steelers holding it down, having a great season with 97 games correct. Plus, it looks like it was week 8 that was his lowest of the season, where he only got 7. So technically that would make 104 games picked correctly this year. That's pretty awesome. Nice work. We've got a 2-way tie for second place with Aqua Cannon and Niner Gang with 96 points on the season. So great job, guys. Don't forget to make your picks like I do. Make sure you go and check out my mock draft if you have not seen it yet. Don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.